All right, guys, we are recording. Happy Tuesday to you. It's 11 o'clock. This class today is going to be on opportunities. Before we jump in, anything specific you guys were looking to learn on the webinar today?
Kyle. So in the opportunities, I put in my task list for my listings, okay?
Yep.
I put it under our team, but it didn't populate, let's say, me personally. So that's one of two things I want to learn today. And the second thing is, I'd like to be able to duplicate all of those tasks because there's not that much difference between, there are certainly differences between buyer side and seller side, but I don't want to have to put in all of those items again if I don't have to. So if that's a possibility.
Okay, perfect. So we'll go over a couple of those things as we go through the opportunity section. We'll talk about those task lists and how they work, okay?
Thank you.
Perfect. All right, guys. So what I'm going to do is we will use the chat feature here in Zoom. If you have any questions, go ahead and post that in the chat room. I'm going to keep an eye on that. And then about every 5 to 10 minutes or so, once I get through a certain subsection, I'm going to stop and take questions. And that will be your opportunity to ask anything about what happened in those previous 5 to 10 minutes. So we're going to start with agent.kw.com, right? Just going to lead off every call with that. That's the URL to get to command, which will bring us here to our command home screen. Remember, you can punch out this KW right here and see all the different icons and learn the names of the icons. Once you learn them, you can click this KW and punch them back in. Today, we're going to focus on opportunities, which is this section right here of two hands shaking. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just actually click on opportunities, and let's go ahead and set this up for you on how this is going to work. Now, it is a Tuesday. This is typically rollout day for KW technology. I haven't seen many issues this morning. I was having a little issue with one of the agent guides this morning for the website, but haven't seen anything in opportunities yet, so hopefully we're bug-free. If we run into some bugs or some issues, we're just going to roll with it, make the best use of our time, and we can follow up on anything that needs to be followed up on. So what you guys are looking at is the opportunities home screen, right? So again, all I did was click one click here on this two hand shaking, and this is what I see. So you have a listing pipeline, a buyer pipeline, and a leasing pipeline. And down at the bottom, you have some stats that are being run for you here to kind of tell you about your business, right? And the type of volume you have in your business right here. This is a revenue projection tool, meaning that you're going to go ahead and add somebody to one of these pipelines once you feel there's an opportunity to earn a commission off of this potential client, okay? This is a two-step process, and this is one of the two sections that is going to become mandatory for all agents, regardless if you use Command as your CRM or some of the other pieces of technology. This is the main piece where you're going to find DocuSign, and also we're going to find the new commissions tab, which will replace Green Sheets. So this is a really, really important applet, one of the top two important applets. The other one's going to be Contacts, which we did yesterday. All right, and I'm going to post that video later today. I finally got them uploaded last night to YouTube. So we'll post that if you need to go back and watch. So step one would be create a contact. Step two, as this new compliance procedure will work, is going to be create an opportunity. I want you to think about creating an opportunity similar to creating a loop, okay? You are not going to, every single lead that comes into your database, let's say I have a Facebook lead that comes into Command, that person may be a lead, they may not be Cultivate, right? Because there's no projection of revenue there until I have a conversation or maybe I met with that individual. Once I think there is an opportunity to maybe, I had a great phone conversation or we're talking about meeting in the future, then I can go ahead and put someone into the pipeline. And I'll show you here in just a second how this tool is going to work. All right. Let me go over a couple other buttons here, and then we're going to take some questions, and then we'll start digging into these pipelines. So up here, I have my name. It says Kyle Halloran, and I'm looking at my pipeline. If you are part of a team, if you're a team lead, you may see your team name next to your name, where you could click on that and see all of the opportunities of all the agents underneath of you on that team. All right. In addition to that, the teams will have a drop down over here on the right-hand side that you'll actually be able to drop down and look at your buyer's agents or your listing agents, whoever's below you as the rainmaker. You will be able to go ahead and see that there, okay? All opportunities, what this is as you move things through the pipeline, let's say you close properties, every opportunity you've created is going to live right here in this tab, which is all opportunities. Now, one of the great things about this is that you can actually use filters and search all of your past deals. So you could say, hey, I would like to see all the deals that I closed between a certain time, right? Or let's say close date, right? So let me see all the properties that I've closed within the last month, right? Or this month, and apply filters, and you can run that report. So this is a great way to store all this data and information, and again, will become mandatory to use this opportunity section. All right, so let's go ahead and take a quick break here. We're going to start with create an opportunity up here on the right-hand side. You guys may or may not see this import button. We're not going to get deep into this today. This is actually a lab that's being worked on to be able to import all of your loops into Command for compliance. Because KW Alliance Group is not moved to Command for compliance or for DocuSign, we're going to stay away from this importing of .loop contracts today because it does not apply to the way that we're going to run business. We will teach this later in the quarter once we start to make that transition. All right, so let's go ahead and stop there for just a second. Any questions about the opportunity home screen here, how to get here before we actually jump into the pipeline? I see a couple questions on the chat. Let's go ahead and look at that. All right, so do you have an ETA for the new compliance and green seed procedure, Chris? So Chris, we are planning on most likely sometime between November 15th and December 15th. We are working diligently with DocuSign to make sure all the forms are in there correctly. And in addition to that, we want to make sure that the compliance folders have all the capabilities that are going to be needed, and they do not right now. So that's the goal. We will give you a 30-day heads up. So we will tell you on October 15th if that expected date is November 15th. I am anticipating probably the end of November into the beginning of December.
No. Are they watching it during the Zoom meeting?
Okay. All right. So any other questions?
Hey, Kyle, it's Mike again.
Hey, Mike.
So the question is, my screen is slightly different because it's asking me to import from .loop. So is that a requirement to import all the old stuff from .loop into Command?
No, it's not a requirement. Here is the way that this actually works, and what they're doing is those offices that have not switched or are over into Command full time. Some agents are still using .loop to write their contracts, right? And so since they're not in Command, they created this import button so those agents could upload those files into compliance, right? So right now, no, there's no reason, there's no requirement to move anything from .loop into Command. What they're doing is trying to make it easier for those agents to be able to upload their compliance. KW, aside from that, is going to create a copy of every single one of your loops and store it here in all opportunities. Okay, so it's a different thing. It's not a backup. When they ask you to import your loops, it's not a backup of all your loops. That will happen here. It's more of an easy button for those agents to upload documents for compliance.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, any other questions there, guys, before we actually jump into the tool? Okay, all right, so let's go ahead and do this. So listing pipeline, buyer pipeline, leasing pipeline. We have 5 different terms here: cultivate, appointment, active, under contract, and closed. You cannot change those 5 names in any of the pipelines, okay? So just so everybody sees that. Now, this is the way it works. As you move people into this pipeline, you will see numbers about how many different deals do you have in each one of these phases. So as an example, if this was my real business right now, I could take a look and I would say, hey, I've got 1 appointment scheduled. I don't have any active listings right now, but I do have 1 under contract. And I haven't closed any for the month. So this closed phase right here is focused on the month. At the end of the month, it will go to 0. Those opportunities are not lost. You're going to find them back up here underneath of all opportunities. Okay. There will be a referral pipeline coming in here, so that if you send a referral to a Keller Williams agent and they are moving that referral through their listing or buyer pipeline, your referral pipeline will automatically move based on the drag and drop that they are doing on their side. So to get into the actual pipeline, this is kind of your 30,000 view of your listing pipeline. I can actually go into the logo, any one of these logos, and you can see when I hover over top of it, it enlarges just a little bit, and it allows me to click. So I can actually go ahead and click on that listing. Okay, so I am in the cultivate stage here of my listing pipeline. And so you can see that it says right up here, listings, and I'm under cultivate. I also know I'm in cultivate because I have a blue line right here underneath of that section. So again, we all are going to see the same 5 names up here on this title menu. Below this, though, we're going to call these boards. Okay, so in my example here, I have 3 boards that I have underneath of cultivate. The default for most of you is it's going to say watch instead of 2021 listings, nurture, and hot. Okay, that's the default for most of you when you look at your listing cultivate pipeline. This is where below this level, when we get down into this level, this is fully customizable for your team. So I don't think of my listing leads as watch, nurture, hot. To be honest with you, I don't really know what that means. What I did was when I was in sales, I had whiteboards in my office and I would write down who are people that are going to sell, that have told me they're going to sell in 2 years. Who are people that have told me they're going to sell in 2020, who said they're going to sell in 2019. And so as I cultivate these different leads, these boards are how I see those people, okay? Now, what you're going to do is I'm going to point this out here. If you want to change your boards from saying watch, nurture, and hot, when I'm under the cultivate section, I'm going to go up to this top right-hand corner and I'm going to click on edit stages. When I click on edit stages, you will see that it says 2021 listings, 2020 listings, and 2019 listings. That matches the 3 boards that I have underneath of cultivate. And remember, I'm in edit cultivate stage. Okay. I can change the order of these boards, right? So I can move them around by dragging and dropping these little carrots. Remember, the board is going to be moving from left to right. So in my case, I want to have 2021 first because that's the first board I want to see. And then I'll drag and drop these different opportunity cards throughout this pipeline. So just remember to edit your stages or to add new stages, right? You could go here and you can click on add new stage and I could add a board. So I could say maybe 2022 listings, right? And I could actually click save. And now I've got 2022 listings. Now in this theory though, with using this logic, I would want to move 2022 listings to the top. And if I go back now to cultivate, and so up here I can go back to the full sales pipeline or just to the cultivate section. When I click on cultivate, I now have a 4th board. And you guys can see that here now. It says 2022, 2021, 2020, 2019. Okay. Now I'm going to grab a opportunity card. All right. So let's grab it here from appointment. And what I'm going to do is actually I'm going to drag this back to the very beginning. Now I just want to show you how this is going to work. Okay. So how this is going to work is when you meet somebody, let's use this opportunity card. When you meet somebody, once they're a contact, if you think there's a possibility of working with this person, you are then going to go up top here and click on create opportunity. All right, when you create an opportunity, you can select which one of these phases this lead should go into. So let's use this as an example. Kyle Holleran, is a client and he's looking to sell his house and I meet him at an open house, right? And he says, hey, I'm thinking about selling in a couple of years. So I could create an opportunity because we had a really good conversation about that. And I want to make sure I can come to a sales pipeline and look and say, hey, is there anything I need to do right now for Kyle Holleran? And then as we move through the years, right, the next couple of years, I can move him through this pipeline. Okay, I can move him through this pipeline. All right, so that's the way that this is going to work. So if I first meet somebody, I can move them all the way through. Let's say Kyle called me and said, you know what, I was going to sell in a couple of years, but I actually needed to sell in 2019. I could go ahead and drag him all the way up here to 2019. Then he says, great, let's meet. I can take them out of this cultivate section and I can move them over to appointment. All right, once I meet with Kyle, let's say, we have an upcoming appointment, he signs paperwork and we go active, I can continue to move this person throughout this pipeline. If I go all the way back to the beginning, you will see now that I no longer have one card in cultivate and appointment. I now have one in active and under contract. All right, so as I move those tiles throughout the details of the pipeline, the numbers are going to reflect over here. So if you're a team, one of the great pieces is you can look and say, okay, my personal production, how many listings do I have? How many does my team have? And in one quick snapshot, you get an idea about how is your business looking for this month and what do you have upcoming. Okay. So let me dig back in here just a little bit. I'm going to finish up with this, and we're going to go back and we're going to start by creating a new opportunity. There's the same card here. Let's say we're active. One of the great features here is that you can actually create checklists, okay, for each one of these boards. So I want you to think of this tool as also transaction management. So let's think about this. If I took a listing and we had an active listing agreement, but I was not on the market yet, right? I came over here and I actually created a couple different items that would need to happen when we're in that pre-listing spot. Have I called the sign company? Have I scheduled my stager? Have I ordered photos? Right? Have I ordered a home warranty? Drop off a lockbox? So I can actually create all of these checklist items, right, one time. And I do that by, again, going up to Edit Stages. So this Edit Stages button now does two things. It allows us to create and manage the boards and the names of the boards on here. It also allows us to look at the checklist, right, and add items to this master generic checklist. So I'm going to go back here, and I want to make sure we get this down. So in pre-listing, I have 9 items that I've added to a generic checklist of things that have to happen when someone gets into pre-listing. If I were to move this card forward, let's say they hit the market, you can see that when I move the contact card here, we'll see how many checklist items there are for here, and there are 3, right? It says 0, 3. So for this section of my business, there's more things to do on a checklist in terms of transaction management than there is to do here. But once I move this card here, it says, okay, Kyle, you now have 0 of 3 things completed. Did I confirm the MLS listing looks good? I can say, yes, that looks good, and I can check that off. Did I add an open house time and date? Nope, I haven't done that yet, right? And have I created a custom tag for the address? Yes, I've done that. And I can hit close. Once I check off those items, now I see that 2 of the 3 items for this opportunity have been created, right? So the last thing I want to show you here on this little checklist as we go is, let's say, add open house time and date. Let's say I haven't set that yet, right? I haven't been able to set a time and date with the seller of the property. I could check it off. I could also come in here and say, hey, set a due date, right? When is that task supposed to be done? Let's say Friday. And I go in here and say, yep, Friday at 11 a.m., make that a task, okay? So I can change this down here and pick my time, and I go ahead and say, okay. So now one of my checklist items has a timestamp, and you can see I can set a due date to any of these checklist items. So as soon as I set a due date to this item, it automatically becomes a task and is living up here in the task manager of Command. So if you imagine you have multiple cards moving throughout this pipeline, both in a listing and a buyer pipeline, just based on when you move people to different sections, you can get a really good task list, right, with a couple clicks on everything that you need to do for this next section of transaction management, right? So those who do not have assistance, right, I see this as a very valuable tool on how this can help you. Now let's finish this out. We're going to create a new opportunity. So again, this card could continue to move forward. I'm going to move you into under contract. There's a different checklist for every one of these boards. So this one has 5 different items that need to be done. So here is an example of if I had 2 people both ratified at the same time, what that would look like. And I can obviously have multiple cards, and I can continue to scroll down here. So both people have 5 checklist items because that's how many are on the generic master checklist. Let's say Fred Flintstone here had something extra that he needed for his transaction. I can click on this 0 of 5, and I can actually build off of those 5 specifically for Fred Flintstone's listing checklist in the ratified inspections under contract stage. So I can click here and say add new item, and I could say send over contractor, right? And I can click on save, and now you'll see, right, when I click close here, now Fred Flintstone has 6 items, and Kyle Holleran only has 5. Right? And you can just go ahead and finish out the process here. I move them up to closed, and then they'll stay in this closed section here, right? They'll stay here until the end of the month, all right? So you could drag and drop up there to close. And again, if I go back now to the listing pipeline, you can see that I now have 2 under contract. These numbers have changed as I've moved, okay? And so that's the general idea of how this is going to work, like kind of number 1, right? There's going to be a deeper section here of how we get to DocuSign and the green sheets, but does everyone understand how that timeline works and how we're moving these cards throughout this pipeline? let's take a stop real quick and answer some questions. Any questions on sliding, dragging, dropping boards, how they're set up, or the checklists? Now, Mike, I'm going to answer your question here while we let other people jump in a little bit. The way that this is going to work on teams, if you're on a team, these checklist items do and should be filtering down to all the members on the team. In order for that to happen, in the Rainmaker settings, okay, and I can't show it to you because I don't have a team, but under the Rainmaker settings here, there is a section called Opportunities, just like there is for Contacts. And in that section there, you can say whether or not all of your buyer's agents can create their own opportunities separate from the team opportunities. There is a toggle. If you say no, the agents are not allowed to create all their own opportunities, all of the checklist items will be applied to all the agents below them, okay? If you give them the opportunity to create their own, then the checklist items from the Rainmakers account are not going to filter down. So what I would tell you is make sure you're in the Rainmakers account, go to settings, make sure that you have toggled off the ability for other agents to create opportunities by themselves.
Understood. Thank you.
Very good. All right, so I see Al.
By the way, are those Rainmaker settings available at this time? Because on the last conversation, they hadn't been yet.
Yes, those should be there. And we have some agents on this call I know that have set this up and it is working properly, that the same checklists are filtering down. So yeah, if you have any questions about that, let me know on the Facebook page, but they are there and it should be working.
Thank you.
All right, I see Alex says, can you assign tasks to individuals on a team? And if so, can those assignments be the same for every opportunity automatically? Dotloop has this capability now. So great question. So if I go here and I click on under contract, and if I click on 0 of 6, right, I have the ability right here, it says set due date, okay? On a team, you'll have another one just to the left of this that will say assign to contact. And I can click that and assign it to anyone that's on the team. So Alex, in your case, as an admin, you could sit there and you could go down and say, hey, assign, 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 assign. Right now, it is a little bit manual. You have to go in and you have to set the due date and the person that needs to do that task for each one of these checkboxes. The next iteration of opportunities, though, is that you'll be able to say, collect EMD, as an example, is the buyer's agent job. So automatically assign that to the buyer's agent and make that due within 1 day of this card getting there. So good question. It is coming. Make sure you have your checklist items in there now so that you can be able to use that feature. But you can assign now, but it is manual and it will become automatic. Okay. Gary says, where do you see an action item when it goes to the task list? So great question, Gary. So let me show you here. Let me do, for Fred Flintstone, I need to send this in for compliance, and I need to do that, let's say today, and I'm going to do it tonight, you know, whatever, 9:30 is my due date, and I click OK. I will see, right, that it has a due date. I have a checklist item. Now it becomes a task. So if I go back over here and I go to the task menu and I open this up, you have 2 different subsections. And just so you guys know, we're working right now in a lab with KWRI where we're going to combine these 2 different subsections. Contact tasks are ones that have to do specifically, obviously, with contacts. So call Mike Goodman tomorrow, right? Could be a task inside of his contact card. The other tab up here is opportunity tasks. Any of the ones that you've created, this is where they should be showing up, okay? So under opportunity tasks, and I do want to show this, it says, show my task for today. Some people get a little messed up here. So if I scroll down here, right, I should see the one that I just created, and it's going to be on the second page probably, right? I can also go up here and say, show me for the next 7 days, okay? And it'll show me these different tasks here. So Gary, that's where they should be showing up once you assign them in this section. If you guys are having any issue with these not populating here for whatever reason, again, make sure you're in the right drop down, and if you have any further issues, let me know.
Yep, it works exactly as you described. I've just checked. Thanks.
Perfect. Very good. All right, so let's go back over to opportunities again. Let's create an opportunity. So this is the best use case I can explain here is imagine you're working with a client and you're ready to either write a contract on DocuSign or just get them into that Cultivate section so you can go and look and see how many people you've got in that section. So where we're going to start is in the top right corner, create opportunity. All right, it's going to open up a little box right here for us. It should default to your market center. I'm in multiple market centers, so it jumps around a little bit, but it should default to your market center. It should default to your team if you're on a team. This is an important one. There's only 4 things that are required here. 1, 2, 3, 4, all right in a row. So opportunity type, listing buyer, landlord, tenant. Make sure this is correct. Right now, there is no way to go back. If you accidentally create a listing opportunity and it's for a buyer, you have to archive that opportunity and create a buyer opportunity. This is not an easy edit switch. The reason is that once we create the opportunity, the compliance checklists carry with that opportunity. So if I created a listing opportunity, I have listing agreement, property disclosures, all of those are in the compliance section. I need to be able to get to buyer agency and those things. So this is important. So select this correctly. In this case, let's say we're going to do a listing, and then you've got to select a client. So this is why putting somebody in is the first step, right? So the contact has to be in there. So I could say, let's see, who do we have in here? Snow White, I think, is in here maybe. All right, Snow White, right? Let's say she's my client, and it's going to default to white listing. Okay. Now be careful here. We may give you some rules on this in the future when we actually go to this for compliance. Think of opportunity name almost as a loop name. So if you have a couple people with the last name of White or Brown, right, or some of those common last names, you could have 2 opportunities both named white listing, and there's no way to distinguish between the 2. We've already seen that in a couple of our market centers. So that's it though, right, for in terms of what is actually required. You could add a co-seller here. So if you had spouses that were in command, you could add the co-seller there. Custom tags. This is different than contact tags. This is actually if I wanted to maybe tag the type of financing that was involved, maybe the month in which this was closing, any of those types of things. You know, maybe the agent that you're working with on the other side. It's actually tagging an opportunity so you can filter by that. So that's what that is. Estimated closing date, listing price, commission rate. This is all on the listing side. So, hey, I think this deal might close, you know, before the end of the year. So I'll put December 31st, and I think their house is worth around, you know, $500,000, I think is what Snow White's house is worth. And I would make hopefully 3% on that deal, right? And then they're going to be in the cultivate section, and they're going to sell in 2019. So I can choose where they fall into the pipeline. But I want to point out here, you can only go as far as active. The reason is you can't go to under contract, because if you're under contract, we assume there is compliance that would have had to have been turned in by that point, and you cannot move it automatically to under contract. All right. So this is the screen to create one of those cards that we're going to drag and drop. Pretty simple. All right. And once I do that, I can then click on create opportunity. All right. Now I see a couple questions coming in. This is going to take us to a details page. Right, so this is called the opportunity details page. I just want to show you real fast. If I go all the way back to the sales pipeline, it should work correctly, and now it does, right? It's showing me that I have 1 in cultivate. When I click on cultivate, this card should now be over here in 2019, right? Because that's where I said to put it, and it's Snow White, right? And potentially the closing date, and $15,000 could be my potential commission. So all that worked correctly. To get back to the opportunity details page, and I just want to show this. So you either get to this page either by creating an opportunity for the first time, or you can simply click on the card. So click on the card, and it's going to take you back into this opportunity details page. All right, that's the setup of creating an opportunity. So let's go ahead and stop. What questions do we have up to here? Kate asks, can you create a contact directly from here, or do you have to go out and create the contact? That's coming, Kate. They do want you to be able to do both things on the same screen. I've not seen the add contact yet. So right now, step 1 would be create the contact. Step 2 would be create the opportunity. I would like to point out when you create a contact, there is an opportunities tab right within that contact card. If you actually go to the opportunities tab, you can actually create an opportunity from inside the contact. So this will work both ways from there, okay? All right, so Mike said, Kyle, can you please share your task lists? Yep, I'll show you in just a few minutes where I have those saved. They're in my Facebook page, okay? What other questions do we have? I heard someone else maybe asking a question there on the call. All good? All right, let's keep moving. All right, so let's look at this opportunity details page. Guys, this becomes a mothership screen for you, if you will. You need to get very familiar with this screen because this is where everything is happening in terms of DocuSign and compliance, and your green sheet, which is this commissions tab. All right, so again, just remember, when you create a new opportunity, as soon as you click create new opportunity, you land here, or I can click on any of the cards in the pipeline and it'll bring me to that specific details page for that listing. So in this case, I'm in Snow White listing, which is a listing opportunity. And it's showing me up here that she's in listing under Cultivate. Okay, so over here, I have general information. This is the information I've already typed in when I just created this opportunity. So you can see it here, general info. I've got the opportunity here to put in some data about this property if I wanted to, right? So I can actually go in and I can actually type in the address of the property and pull in some details here. Below that, you're going to see a seller worksheet. This is where you can actually come in and say, all right, we are going to pay the buyer's agent 3%. You know, that's what we've kind of agreed to. So let's do 3% here. Seller's closing costs. Remember, this is a listing. Snow White's my client. So if you know what your seller closing costs typically might be, I might say an average of 1%. Snow White, what's your mortgage balance? She tells me it's $350,000, right? This is all internal information for you only. No one externally has seen this. And I could add in some HOA dues, prorated taxes. There's a toggle here that says, hey, Kyle, would you want to show this information on an offer comparison, basically a seller net sheet? And I'm going to say, yeah. Let me go ahead and use that information maybe down the line if I had multiple offers in a seller net sheet, and go ahead and click save. Okay. So I'm under the details tab, and I've got just these details here, my seller worksheet information here. I'm going to come back to Porch. You guys probably all don't have this. I'll explain what that is in just a couple minutes, but that's that. Okay. Based on the where they are inside of the pipeline. So she's in Cultivate in 2019. Because of that, there are 3 checklist items in that section. And that's why I'm seeing a checklist up here of 0 to 3. Again, because they're in 2019 listing in the Cultivate section. So I can see also in this view, what are the 3 things that need to be done for this opportunity. It's not only in the pipeline view, which is pretty cool. Okay. All right, the second tab is the Documents tab. So I'm going to go ahead and click into the Documents tab. Depending on your market center, this could look different for you, okay? So when you first come into the Documents tab, you're going to notice that it says residential, listed, under contract, and closed. Okay, these are the compliance checklists, right? So listed, under contract, and closed. Compliance checklists. Up here, if you have connected DocuSign in your settings, and this should be working for all the offices now, and I'll answer some questions on that in just a minute where you can get that. You can actually click on Start a Transaction, and this is what's going to create a DocuSign room, right? This is the same as creating a loop in .loop, right? And this is where all of your forms are going to be. I can go ahead and sign in here. We're not using this system fully. It does not have all of our forms in it yet. I obviously just want to be able to show you what this looks like. Okay? So this is, just remember, through this Documents tab is where you're going to create what we call a DocuSign room for Snow White. Okay? And again, we're going to get deeper into DocuSign as we get a little bit further down the line. Once I create a DocuSign room and it's attached to Snow White, this has changed from Start a Transaction now to Go to Transaction. So if I needed to fill out a new addendum or send an addendum out for signatures or upload something differently, I can simply go to Transaction, and it'll take me right back in here to this DocuSign room. Okay. So let's say we get contracts signed, right? I use DocuSign, and right now we're still using .loop to get all of our contracts signed. And remember, the fact that DocuSign is here and the compliance checklist is here iterates that it's actually 2 different systems in command, right? So in .loop, the way that it works is we do both e-signatures and compliance in .loop. For this, it's actually going to separate, right? And so it's actually going to be, you can use whatever platform you want for e-signature, and then you're going to submit things for compliance. The KW system that we will provide as part of your fees, right, is going to be DocuSign. And I'll show you a couple different ways this is going to work today. So, documents. Once I sign contracts, again, I'm in the listed folder here. I could say, hey, I need to add a file, right? So we can add a file to compliance. I can manually upload that. So if I had a listing agreement signed and I scanned it into my computer, I could upload that document here. Or because I started a DocuSign room, I can now attach to DocuSign and it'll show me all the forms that are in that loop, basically, or in that room. Okay, and then I can attach those to these lines. Now, we are going to get very deep into DocuSign and compliance training a little bit later on, either this month or the very beginning of November. All right, so I'm not going to stop and take a lot of questions on this, because actually what we're doing right now is building multiple checklists. So there would actually be a step before this where you would say, hey, this is a Virginia listing, and it would have everything, right? This is a Maryland listing that would have everything in there. So the checklists are going to change based on what type of listing you're trying to create. In addition to that, when you go into the DocuSign room, we're setting up the templates right now so that if I was doing a listing, I don't need to go in and grab all the individual documents. We're putting them together so it can say listing agreement, property disclosure, lead-based paint, right? And they're all right there, and you guys can just go. I would like to point this out because we are attached here to Snow White and the contact card with Snow White. This document section, when we go over to DocuSign, is actually being auto-populated by all that information in the contact card. So this will cut down double entry that most of you are doing right now in dotloop, where I just left eEdge to create a loop, and now I'm having to go in and type in my buyer's name, and I'm doing that whole autofill section again. All right, so that will be a lot easier. So all I want you to know is, for the purpose of this call and opportunities at a high level, details is this page. Documents becomes where you go for DocuSign and your forms in the future, and then also where to submit those forms to compliance. All right. Now, the next tab is offers. So the way that this works is right now is you have to at least enter the ratified offer into this tab. The information that they're asking you for is the same information that you have to put onto a green sheet right now. And you'll see that once I put that information in once, I don't have to do it again. So this commissions tab is actually going to be auto-calculated for me, and I don't have to fill out a green sheet. So they're not asking you for more information. There are some really interesting features of this, which are you can compare multiple offers, though, in this tab if you have them. So to add an offer, right now you have to do this manually, and you're going to click on Add New Offer. And I could say Initial Offer, and I could click Create an Offer. It's going to walk you through these 4 steps. And again, remember, I'm under the Offers tab. So offer details. What's the name? What's the offer date? When's this deal going to close? So I could say, hey, this deal is closing on November 15th. It's just going to ask me for the parties. 2 things required here. Who's the buyer? I could say Sleepy Dwarf, right? And then the only other thing that's asking me for right here is going to be the associate's name. And I could say Jim Callahan, I don't know, right? There are also some buttons here where I could say, hey, this person is pre-approved. They're pre-qualified, so you can add more information if you'd like here. All right, all that's required on the party section. Then I'm going to click on terms, right? And in terms, all it's going to ask me is what's the sales price of the property. So I could say they're offering $400,000 in cash, and they are offering $75,000 in finance amount. That's probably going to be backwards. I get that. Sales price is total. Earnest money. Let's say that earnest money amount is 1%. Any closing costs in here. Agent analysis. This is where you have an opportunity to give any sort of feedback about this offer. This is not required, but I could come in here and I could say pro, quick close, right? And great lender maybe. And then maybe some of the cons are home inspection contingency, and they're asking for a pre-occupancy or something like that, right? You can type in all your notes here, and then a summary, right? And then I can go ahead and click save. So all I did was those 4 steps, right? And then once I do that, now within the offers tab, it shows that I have 1 offer, and it kind of summarizes here what that offer is, right? Jim Callahan, here's the offer. So in order to open up the commissions tab or the green sheet, this is a prerequisite. Once I click accept, the commissions tab will open. Now, I just want to show you another feature of this, which is if you have multiple offers, let's say initial offer 2, and they are going to close on, November 8th, right? And they are Bob Hill is the buyer, and Jen Kramer is the associate name. And I go down here and I do terms, and they're offering $500,000 of cash, no financing. They're going to offer a 2% earnest money deposit. Agent analysis. This is good. All right, this is bad. All right, and I can hit save. And once I do, I now have 2 different offers. All right, so most of you guys can see this now. So I have offer 1 and offer 2. In the future, you'll be able to actually scan in offers, and the artificial intelligence will be able to read that offer and actually create these for you. All right, not there yet. They are there in Oklahoma and in Texas right now, but right now we are manually adding these offers. Once I have multiple offers, you see a new button pops up over here that says compare offers. Wasn't there when we just had 1. But once I have 2, I can do a select all on 2, or just specific ones if I had more than 2, if I just want to run a seller net sheet on 2 specific ones. Select more than 1, compare offer highlights. I can now click on compare offers, and a seller net sheet is created on my behalf. So I've got the sales price here, I've got the cash, the financing amount, right? My notes on those 2 deals. Sleepy Dwarf was pre-approved, right? So that information is in there. So imagine if you had multiple offers, just by typing in some of those key points, you're getting a really good seller net sheet. Okay. Now remember, because I typed in that I would like some information to be factored into the seller net sheet when I put those details in, it's showing me here, based on the mortgage balance that I owe on each one of these offers, right? Specifically to Snow White's mortgage balance, how much is she going to net? And I have the ability to either email this offer out to my client, or I could download a PDF of the seller net sheet and take it with me over to my client's house. All right, so let me just finish this offers tab real quick, and then I'll stop for some questions. So if I go back to offers, I'm going to say, okay, great. We're going to take Bob's offer here, and I click accept. Right, once I do, we're going to see the commissions tab open up. Now, I believe this commission tab is taken down today on purpose. They are relaunching this commissions tab. I know it's in labs today. So this is not the final product, but you can see this is what it's going to look like. So once I accepted an offer, right, this became live. It ungraded, and I can now click on it. And because I've already typed in the sales price and the commission of this deal, right, and it has me in here, is a live cap status update. I can add agents. I can add deduction items in here. Again, we're not going to get too deep into this today because this is not the live version. I know 5 market centers around the country are labbing this week, and then we'll teach the final product, and we'll really help you guys get some of those questions answered. Okay. So offers first, then the commissions tab. Notes obviously are just a way to leave notes on the deal. So if all of your team members were on a card, someone wanted to come in here and just say, Snow White was mad, I could go in here and just say, someone left the door open at open house, right? And I could leave that note, and that way when other my team members come in here, they could see the timestamp of the notes around the deal and actually what happened. Okay, so that is your opportunity details view. Details, documents, offers, commissions, and you're almost moving again left to right as you move throughout the transaction. All right, I know that was a lot, so let's take a quick break and let's kind of discuss questions. What do you guys have? All right, so Kyle, can you please share your task list? Yep, sorry, Mike, I just reread that one, I will. Mike said, so for EMD, can you put money to find out percentage? Example, 5,000 EMD for a $475,000 sales price. For net sheet, can we add additional fields? For net sheet, can we make a net sheet at the time of listing? So no, the way it's set up right now is the only way to get to a seller net sheet is when you have offers. My suggestion there, Mike, might be you could create a couple fake offers that were just maybe in $20,000 increments, if that makes sense. If you wanted to take something over to a seller to show them what a seller net sheet could look like. But I do not know the way right now to create a seller net sheet before offers are here. In terms of creating an offer, once you accept an offer, right? Let's say that this deal fell apart and we're no longer accepting this offer. So you could actually come in here and you could say change response. And it'll say, yes, change this response. So now house goes back on the market, right? You go back onto the market again, accepting offers. This commissions tab grays out. The green sheet's basically wiped away and you restart. Now, if I go in here and I edit the offer, so let's say we counter back and forth, I'm going to edit something. I was going to look at the EMD question. Let's see. So it looks like it does not fully find the down to the decimal point, Mike, but it looks like you can type in the dollar amount if it was something different, but it's not publishing. It's like 1 point something. It looks like it's either rounding up or rounding down.
Try 9,000.
All right, let's try 9,000, 2%.
Okay.
Okay.
Try taking out the 1 first.
Yeah, so if we take out the 1, it is calculating back and forth. So if I do say 9,000, it's giving me 2. If I deleted that out and I just said 1, it'll go ahead and do that calculation.
Thanks, Kyle.
Sure. All right, so what else? Any other questions
The
just
last
on
question,
this setup? Yeah, go ahead.
And on the last question in there is, can we add additional fields to the net sheet?
Okay, so let's go back to this net sheet. So again, net sheet is grayed out. Once I click accept, it should come back to life and I can see it here. Now, again, this is not the final product, so there will be additional fields and things like that in there for you. I will show you a few things that are maybe a precursor to that. I can come down here and I can create an additional item. So this could be an additional deduction. And if I actually click on this, it'll say, what type of additional element do you want to add to this commission sheet? Is this a bonus? Is this a concession? Is this a deduction, inside or outside referral? So yes, you will be able to customize this green sheet. I've had the question, can I customize one and make that the default for my team? I've provided feedback for that, and I'm hoping that is something that we can do so you wouldn't have to go in and add these boxes every time. I'm not sure if that will make the first launch or not. In addition, you can add additional team members here. The way that that currently works, I'm not sure if this will be the final way. The way that this logic works is this. We have a sales price and we have a full commission of $14,250. And it says Kyle Holleran here, the agent, is receiving the entire amount, $14,250. Now I'm just going to point this out. If I scroll to the bottom of this page, it's not very obvious right now, but it says, can't add another agent. Total payment amount has been distributed. Okay. If I actually scroll back up here and I delete out some of my commission, let's say $14,000, right? Let's say I'm going to take 14 grand on this deal. The green sheet now recognizes that there is a difference between 14,250 and what I'm receiving. So if I now scroll back to the bottom of the page, it says, and I get an error, it says no agents, not all money has been paid. I now get an additional add agent button down here. And I should be able to select that, and I should be able to select an agent from inside of my office, right? So I can go here and I can select Cheryl, there she is. I can say, hey, Cheryl held this open for me, or maybe she covered for a home inspection and I'm gonna pay her $250, okay? And then as soon as I balance that money out again, right, and I put in the 250, all the calculations will be done. This error will go away, and then I would be able to submit that to my market center, okay? So that's the way that works in terms of adding additional agents to the green sheets. I kind of skimmed over this. I want to point this out though. This will be a live cap status update, right? Meaning that you will be able to see per the deal how much, you know, where your cap is, where this deal gets you onto that cap, and what your balance is going to be. You no longer will have to wait until transmittal to be able to see that information. Okay. Now I get a little summary over here, and we're working on adding deductions like default taxes and things like that that we are required to take out. And you should get a very accurate number here as to, based on this deal, what is my check going to be for based on my cap, right? What is Cheryl's check going to be? So you're actually going to need a breakdown, almost think of it as a DA of your check prior to actually waiting on that DA to be completed. Okay.
Kyle, when you're done with this, can we go back to the net sheet and just back to that? Can I add additional lines to the net sheet itself?
No, right now you can't add additional lines. If you don't put in the information in the offer, it'll just leave the line off of the net sheet, right? So if I don't put things like seller concessions, it just won't be there. You cannot add lines at this time. We have asked for that opportunity though to be able to customize that net sheet.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else there? And then I'm going to start to show you some resources to work on. So the biggest work here in terms of homework, I would say, is if I go back out to the sales pipeline, is going to be creating these checklists that we had talked about so that you can use it to be able to do your transaction management. I kind of think of two different ways that you could do this. I would have to give you an example, I could go into the listing pipeline, and here, let me use appointment as a better example. I have 3 different boards underneath of appointment. That's 3 different checklists that I need to go in and create up here under edit stages. So that's 1, 2, 3 checklists. If I went to active, that would be 4, 5, 6 checklists, right? 7, 8, 9 checklists. So it is a lot of checklists to build, and I think it can be very helpful. So my suggestion is this: either create your checklist as you go throughout the opportunity with somebody. So Fred Flintstone was an actual client of mine, and I was working with him over the course of the next 30 to 60 days, right? Try to create your opportunity card, and then as you're moving Fred Flintstone throughout this listing pipeline, you get to the financing section, what pops up, right? What do you need to remember to do? And then in that moment, you can come here and say, okay, let's edit stages, and let's add a couple things to this financing checklist. All right, I just got kicked out because they're doing updates right now. But think of it that way. The other way to build your checklist is, if you wanted a time block for it, is if you go to Facebook and you go to my Facebook page, the KW Alliance Technology Mastermind page. Okay. So if you're not a member of this, just go ahead and type in that name. I think most people are now. If you go to the Files section down here, right? So if I click on Files, within the Files section, you're going to find 2 different documents. And these are the checklists for this opportunities pipeline. So one is for the buyer pipeline, and one is for the listing pipeline. So I could click on this. It's going to open up a document. And let me make sure this makes sense to everybody. So this is the listing checklists for the opportunity section. So these are your 5 stages, right? Cultivate, appointment, active, under contract, and closed are going to go over here, and they're going to match, right? Cultivate, active, under appointment, contract, closed, right? So here are these 5 under contract are going to match these names over here on the left. Then underneath the cultivate, remember the boards start out by saying watch, nurture, hot. So that's the same thing as my board saying 2022, 2021, 2019, etc. And then on here it says these are the actual checklist items underneath the board. So cultivate, watch, lead, and then these are 3 checklist items. So if I looked at my opportunities, I'd be in listings under cultivate, and if this was called watch, right, the 3 checklist items would be these 3 things. Okay? So we've uploaded these forms in here, and they go through every single section. Some of them have a lot more checklist items than not. I didn't create this. Someone else shared it on one of the other Facebook pages and said we could use it. This is a starting point. The goal here would be is if something happens within your transaction, if something fell through the cracks, you could go back and add that item to the opportunities, and it would never happen again. Okay? So that is an overview of the opportunities section. And I would suggest to you the best thing to do is leave this class if you haven't done so already. Go right to create opportunity, right? Get used to looking at this details page. And again, I can get to it by clicking on Snow White here on the card. Takes me back into this details page, and just understand where you're going to start coming to when you need to get to the documents tab, the offers tab, the commissions tab. Okay. So I'm spinning here. I think we're getting some updates within Command, so timing looks like it's working out well. Any final questions on opportunities? And again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to post this recording later this afternoon or tomorrow when it's finished uploading. If you have any questions, you can go back and watch that again, and then also post on that Facebook post, ask any questions you want, and I can address those questions there. Mike said, how can you make copies of checklists to use in listing buyer? You cannot right now. So unfortunately, it is a little bit of double entry on both sides. The reason that they don't pre-populate checklists is because, remember, it starts with watch, nurture, and hot. And if they pre-populated those 3 boards, when I change mine to say 2022, 2021, 2019, those checklists would no longer match the way that I do business. So really what they want everyone to do is underneath those 5 phases is to fully customize everything below that. We have discussed in labs, hey, could the market center maybe create that pipeline? And if agents chose, they could use the office pipeline checklist, but we don't have that ability yet. So that's the way that all that's working right now. Probably wasn't the answer you're looking for, Mike, and I apologize. All right, guys, listen, I appreciate you being on this call. I am going to, again, post this, and if you guys have questions, you know where to find me on the Facebook page, and hopefully this was helpful. Enjoy your Tuesday.
Thank you so much, Kyle. This was very helpful.
See ya.